Being overwhelmed is a state that you can visit, but it's not a place that you want to take up residence in. I'd like to share a personal occurrence in hopes that it will help you avoid an ambush of emotions. I had to record this on paper, so I may have to read some of this because I didn't want to leave anything out. Hi, if we've never met, my name is Gladys Bell, and I'm a volunteer with the Motherless Daughters Ministry. Thank you for allowing me to spend some time with you today. And every week we give you a standing invitation to join us for a few minutes of conversation in order to support motherless daughters, to share information, our stories, encouragement. Um, and if this message is helpful to you, we'd like to ask that you share it with other motherless daughters, give us a thumbs up, a review, and subscribe to our channel. Very recently, I experienced a quick rush of overwhelming emotions. I thought it was simply overwhelming grief because that's the blanket over my world in this season. Now, don't get me wrong, I am not incapacitated with grief and depression, but I am blessed to participate in several activities that minister to other people in a very helpful way. I'm grateful to serve with purpose and in fellowship with others, and not isolate myself in grief. It keeps me busy, and that can be a two-edged sword. Um, there are no detours to grief. It's a work that must be done in your own time, at your own pace. So it's a good thing to make time to spend with your grief when necessary. When I took a mental step back uh, to look at this experience, I realized I had been overtaken by what I can only describe as an avalanche. Uh, because of the nature of the experience. According to Merriam-Webster, an avalanche is defined as a sudden, great, or overwhelming rush or accumulation of something. Canada's emergency preparedness site describes an avalanche as being caused by four different factors. Number one, there's a very steep slope, a snow cover, a weak layer of that snow cover, and a trigger. It can travel up to 60 miles an hour. And after 1 hour, 1 in 3 persons are only found alive. And the causes of death can be suffocation, hypothermia, or other wounds. The steep slope, in my experience, is loss. The snow cover is my emotional strength, in which there are weak layers, and the triggers occur every day. I started this experience compromised due to a week of illness, which necessitated a visit to the doctor and prescribed medications. On the heels of that came 5 hours of problem solving due to a home printer issue, which is my workhorse. My printer is a workhorse in the house. That 6 hour period included a 2 hour phone call in order to get the printer operational so that I could finish the task at hand. The final step was the purchase of an updated printer. Next, anger over not being able to find something where I placed it. The anger was out of proportion because it was layered on top of other emotions that I had experienced recently. The icing on the cake was a grief trigger. And at the moment, I don't even remember what the trigger was. It was something on television that surfaced not one, but 4 different losses in my life, major losses. Like in an avalanche, this incident was sudden, it was swift, and spiraled down a steep slope of loss, crashing through weak layers of my emotional strength. This could be a threat because if you stay there long enough, you'll be in jeopardy of suffocation and overexposure to a barrage of emotions and other incapacitating conditions. And I say a barrage of emotions. In one of the uh, grief workshops, they show a picture of uh, emotions that you experience during grief. And it's like a ball, a rubber band ball. And all these different emotions are tangled up together. And uh, all of these emotions are things that you experience during grief. It's not just sadness. Uh, so that can be overwhelming, lots of emotions at one time rushing at you. I share this with you because you need to know that it's okay to be sad sometimes. It's necessary, imperative to grieve your losses. It's not out of the ordinary at times to be overwhelmed, but it's not a place to take up residence. You can't stay there a long time because it becomes a hindrance and it can become dangerous for you, and give you results that you don't want and be harmful. Um, the answer to this dilemma is a very personal one. I encourage you to play the what if game and think ahead to how best to handle an overwhelming avalanche of feelings. What works for me may not be your cup of tea, but it's all I can offer you by way of an example. As an introvert by nature who must operate the majority of the time as an extrovert, um, I have to step back, slow down, retreat to get a perspective. Uh, just take a deep breath. Um, I go to my Abba Father in prayer because the word tells me, come unto me, all ye that labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. So I need to go where I can get rest from whatever is concerning me. Um, I can then take a step back and look at the larger picture, choose one area to focus on, something manageable, something achievable that will yield an immediate result, and complete that task. Um, the world has a saying, and no offense to non-meat eaters, but the world has a saying that says you can eat a whole cow one steak at a time. So, you want to bite off as much as you can chew. If you find yourself overwhelmed, be ready with a strategy to minimize the visit to being overwhelmed. It's exhausting mentally and physically, but God's grace is sufficient for all things. So extend some to yourself and remember, you are not alone.